Speaker today is Amy Shope from Dylan's house. Met Amy a long time ago. We had a mutual friend that was a trainer. We were in the same workout group for a while, and just got to know her, got to know her family, and through that time period, and she ended up, I'll let her tell her story, but ended up starting a nonprofit called Dylan's House, and I think it's going to be a great addition to what we do in the autism community. So I'm going to turn it over now to Amy. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for asking me. Do you want me to stand up since will that be better?
No,
Or
you're good however you want to be.
Okay.
I'll follow
Okay.
you.
If you guys are okay.
Oh, yeah,
I'll just
please.
sit. Okay. So yes, I met Mike back in our days at when I tried CrossFit, and I'm surprised I'm still alive. So I do not do that anymore. But so I think I'll do this in like 3 parts. I'll keep it quick, but then that way it just kind of helps like structure for me. So whenever I hear someone speak, I'm sitting there thinking like, I want to know a little bit about them and like why are they talking. And so I'll just tell you briefly about myself and my family, and then why we started Dylan's House, and then what Dylan's House is doing. And I did bring some brochures, so I'll pass those around. We're on all social medias, and we're on we have our own website. So I have lived in this area my entire life, graduated from Kent, met my husband. I always say I met my husband in college because it sounds better than I met my husband in a bar, but I met my husband in a bar when I was 21, and we're both turning 53, so we've been together that long, and we're planners. We've like planned everything out. Like it's almost exhausting at times, but planned when we're gonna get married and planned when we're gonna have kids, and like everything perfect went along to plan. And then like I love speaking to a group like this because you get it. So of course you don't plan for autism. So we have Dylan, and he's 23 today, and then our daughter Anderson is 20. So when we had Dylan, you think everything's fine. I mean, he really was like this perfect little boy, and he did all his milestones and everything worked out great, and then he just didn't talk. So I won't go through the whole, diagnosis, but he was probably 7 before they really said autism. And when he got kicked out of Canfield, we live in Canfield, he went to school there, 1st grade. He ended up at KidsLink, which is in Streetsboro. So that's kind of where he got placed through Canfield. He's very behavioral. He is verbal. He's a big boy. He's today like 6'2", 230. I'm not really sure. He doesn't like getting on the scale, but very behavioral. Always the one like kicked out of every daycare, like kicked out of everything, kicked out of the camp for special needs at Akron Rotary. And then somewhere along the line, we met Jimmy Sutman and Purple Cat and Idol, and they were a saving grace. When we finally got Dylan a waiver, we had some help in our home with him. The teen years were just absolutely horrible. It was like a war zone. And one day my husband comes home, and I shared this story right in front of him, and him and I have both always worked full time. And one day he comes home and he just says, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, what? I'm a little feisty, I have a little attitude. I'm like, what do you mean? What can't you do? Like, he's like, I just can't do it. It's too crazy. Like Dylan would break furniture and kick holes in the wall. And I mean, our house was like he'd pick up a lit candle and like whip it across the room. And people would be like, well, why do you keep lighting candles? Because you just try to, he has to learn, and you try to have this, normal life. And it was really hard for Anderson. We had caregivers in our house all the time. So I started having a conversation with Jimmy when Dylan was 16, and it involved Dylan's school. His neurologist, Dr. Nevada Reed, owns KidsLink. We've always went to her, and it was kind of this team Dylan, like, let's talk about Dylan transitioning out, which I was against, but because I just didn't think it would work, because I was his 24/7. He didn't sleep. I didn't think he would understand. But school worked with him, and they did picture stories, and they said, this is mom and dad's house, and this is Dylan's house. And they would take pictures. He moved to a house in Camel. He transitioned. He went to school on a Friday morning, and he didn't come back. He moved to his new house. And that's the way we had to do it for him. And I didn't see him for like a week and a half. Jimmy thought it would be better to get him acclimated and kind of try to understand that I'm not, because the second he would see me, would he think that he was going home with me? So he actually did not come to our house for a year, which was probably the hardest thing, because I wanted him home. He moved out in March of 2018. I wanted him home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it was like, no. My husband, it wasn't, I'm not saying Jimmy, was like, no. Just, we didn't think it would work, that he would get upset. So he came home for his birthday in February. That was the first time he came home, and he thought he like barricaded himself in his bedroom and thought he was moving back in. And so we ended up selling our house. That might sound dramatic, and I love that house and I miss it, but it was just too hard for him to understand the difference because he lived there. So today, flash forward, I didn't love him in Camel. It was 25 minutes. It was a good transition, but it was hard for me to go see him as much as I wanted. So I said to my husband one day, what if we were to buy him a house? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, let's buy him a house. We'll be the landlord. We can pick the house and where it's at, and then I will run it and staff it. And I obviously checked with them, and that was okay because there's this need for housing. So Dylan moved the end of 2020 into his own little Cape Cod, and it went really, really well. I mean, he had more space, a backyard. I could kind of make it the way I wanted. And then when our daughter left for college in 2022, I'm not real good at kind of sitting around, and I think you all get this because you really can't sit around. It's not like you can just come home from work and watch TV or cook dinner or really anything that some people, I think, take for granted. Even though kids are busy, no matter who your kids are, with autism, it's not like you can just do what you want. So I said, what are we gonna do? We should start a nonprofit. And my husband is like, what are you talking about? Like, my poor husband. It's like, I exhaust him. No, but he's like, what are you talking about? We know nothing about starting a nonprofit. I'm a financial advisor. I have my own business. My husband's in like the wealth management space too for a different company. So what do we know about running a nonprofit? Nothing. The answer is nothing. But we got an attorney. We're a 501c3. We started a board, formed a board, and kind of knew our mission would be housing, but we really hadn't zeroed in on how that would look. So flash forward, it's obviously 2024. We officially had our first meeting in January of 2023. So we're starting our second year. And the reason for the name, and you might even realize I alluded to it before, is that Dylan talks in the third person a lot. And every day, I was just over there last night, he says, I don't love Dylan's house. I don't wanna live at Dylan's house. And I say, yes you do, buddy. You love Dylan's house, that's where you live. That's what I've said for 6 years. And then he repeats, you love Dylan's house, that's where you live. So I felt like the name had to be Dylan's house, though at the beginning it provided some confusion for people that thought maybe we were raising money for a house for our son. And so we've had to really be clear cut that Dylan is good. This is money that we are raising for other families for housing. So such a lack of housing. You might have this amazing agency that you work with and they just might not have any residential spots available. So our goal is to do what we did for Dylan and be the landlord of the homes. And we will be buying. We originally started out, we were gonna build, we had some land donated from the Autism Society in Boardman, and we still will be doing that, but it's not the right time to build. It's pretty pricey, and we kind of revamped. We started working with a consulting group to help us with some grant writing, and so we will be buying homes starting in Struthers, Youngstown, Louisville, Campbell, kind of that area, and rehabbing these homes. We will own 2 to 3 by the end of the year. And our other pillars that we work on are caregiver support, meaning through grants. So we understand firsthand, like I'm sure you do, how vital that role is, how hard of a role that is, how great it would be if they stay in the career, how much turnover there is. So we provided our first round of caregiver grants in December. We awarded $6,000 to 12 different caregivers. We'll be rolling out another program in the summer, and that's open. Anyone can apply that's a caregiver that works with an individual with autism, And then we have a committee, we have nothing to do with it, just so that there's no overlap. We have a committee, all the names and information's removed, and then these individuals get selected. Also education, because it's so important. We had a very successful educational event. Mike and the Rich Center were there. That was April 10th. It seems like a lot longer at Waypoint. These are free events for parents. We had like 14 resource tables. Jimmy Sutman spoke, Bill Whitaker from Mahoning County spoke, and then my husband and I talked a little bit about Dylan's house. So we'll be doing another one of those in the fall. So that is kind of our story. We just had our fundraiser Sunday. We haven't even put this out there, but we netted $145,000 from that fundraiser. So we're really excited. We're gonna finally be, and we also have applied for some very sizable grants, HUD dollars, things to rehab. So I feel like we needed some time to kind of ramp up, and now we're going to be able to start, buying these homes and adding to our goal. So that's my story.
It's
In
a
a
good
nutshell.
story, yeah, it's great.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
So how does it work once, if say we wanna get a home, down the road, I'm sure we'll probably need one with Matthew. So the question to me is, he has a waiver, so we go with an SSA worker, then who pays for the care? Cause do they have 24-hour care? How does that work?
So every situation is very different, but like for Dylan, he had a waiver as well, and it was a lower level waiver when he lived at home. But when he moved out, because Dylan requires 24/7 one-on-one care, then the waiver, the county works to make sure, along with the agency, that you get that level.
The IO or
Yes,
whatever, okay.
yes.
Okay.
So basically, Bill Whitaker was just saying at the educational event, like every situation's so different, and your SSA will make sure, they will like figure out, what that level is. So basically, we hope to in a perfect world, we hope to own all these homes, and then someone can say, hey, I'm ready for my son or daughter to transition. And then the SSA can say, well, we know that there's 3 spots at different Dylan's houses. And then through the agency and the county, they can place them. So we will not ever be placing individuals. We will just kind of act as the landlord. And since we get it and understand, we hope to just have homes that suit about 2 to 3 individuals is kind of that ideal sweet spot. So hopefully that answered.
It'll be way down the road. I'm just wondering, like
how does it all work?
How does it work,
I've been getting so many calls, and especially since Sunday. I have like 10 emails that just came through this morning. Like, I looked on your website, do you have any spots? We have been getting calls from like Minnesota, North Dakota, North Carolina. We'll move here. They're like, we will move to Youngstown next week if you have a house, and what's this purple cat your son goes to? Like, we are so lucky, I think, in this valley, what we have and the way everyone works together. It'll segue perfectly into how amazing you guys are, but between like Dylan goes to the Purple Cat workshop, he goes to the farm and spends his days there, and it's been amazing. I was very worried. I sat here listening with graduation, and I'm like a worrier, and I thought that the transition was gonna go horrible. I should probably be more glass half full, but I thought
don't think we all.
it would be really hard. He was so used to school. And Jimmy's like, you have some faith, like this is gonna be good, and it's worked out like
I think
amazing.
that's great too. I was telling them the other day when we were talking about you coming, I said, people think, we all wanna keep our kids in our home. That's what we wanna do. But I've read so much that, if that's all they know, and God forbid something happens to you, you kind of want them to.
And just to see, I still have a hard time with it, but I get to now go visit and be his mother instead of giving him a shower, and he takes a lot of medication and he would spit. They all different. He still acts up, like for me. He's so happy to see me, but he's like a lot more ramped up and loud, and the second I walk in the door, he wants to go somewhere and there's a new caregiver, and he's like, wow, he never like asks me to go anywhere. So it's enabled him to just have such a more independent life, even though that sounds so like stereotypical, but really he visits every Sunday because we moved to a condo. He's never lived there, so it's really his mom and dad's house. He visits and he's like ready to leave. When they are there to pick him up, he's out the door. So those things have been very positive.
Who cooks for him and does that kind of stuff? His caregivers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they, now we do have, like, we have a really good group. It's always a good, but it's very, I mean, there's turnover. So right now it's all guys, and I joke around, like, it's great because Dylan, like, they're his buddies, but he's also a very picky eater. So they're like, well, he wanted tater tots for dinner. Is that okay? I'm like, I mean, whatever he's gonna eat.
Yeah, if he's
Right.
eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Imagine
But-
Pringles on the way to school.
It's very right. It's so hard to give up the control, I
Yeah.
think, as a parent when we've had to control so much. So I do have it. My husband's like, he's 23 years old. I'm like, I know, but he can't say to me, hey, mom,
He's still your baby.
I know.
Yeah.
I long for the day that I can give up a little bit of control.
I know. So, and there's a lot of guilt. Like, I do feel bad sometimes when I'm like watching the 6 o'clock news. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I should be, you know what I mean? You do feel really bad, but
We're always on,
I know.
24/7, we're on.
Yeah.
Before you-
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry. Can you toss those tissues this way, please?
We were just talking all
You
night.
can have the whole box.
If you ever have any questions, I'll pass these out. Like the number on here is my cell phone, just because you can text me, call me. Our email's on here and our website, and it just tells a little bit about it. One thing really quick that I left out was that we also have helped a few families because we don't own any homes yet. We've provided some modifications for individuals that already had a house. So maybe they were renting, their parents found them a house. We were able to go in, the nonprofit, and do all the modifications. One family, and they're very vocal about it, but I won't tell their story. They're in Poland. We were able to, the son needed some padding in his room to be able to move in. They needed some glass windows replaced, some ceiling fans replaced. We were able to do all that. Another individual moved from one residential facility to another, and it was unfurnished. So we were able to help with a refrigerator and a couch and just some things that the families. So if you ever hear of that, that is also, our goal is that sometimes someone has a place to move into, but they just need the stuff inside of it. So.
When you talked about, oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, thank you for doing all this, cause this is so needed in our
Thank you.
community. And Amy's always been amazing. We were on the Autism Society together, and she's just been a huge advocate, so I wanna thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
It means a lot.
Thank you.
When you talked about caregiver grants, are you talking about waiver caregivers? Or what does that mean?
Basically, if you're a caregiver and you work either independent through the state of Ohio, or you work for an agency like IOL or whatever the other agencies, you can apply for this grant, and we gave $500 and they could do whatever they wanted with it, just to kind of supplement their income. We're looking at almost like a bonus program,
Okay.
so that to try to keep them in the role.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you haven't, you should definitely check out their podcast, Dylan's House.
Thank you
which
for
is-
reminding me.
Yes, I've listened to every episode, and you really get an inside look as
Thank
to
you.
everything
It's
that's
called
going on.
Welcome to Dylan's House. It's on all the, Spotify, iHeart. You can find it right on our website. It's my husband and I. We've interviewed a lot of guests, but we kind of banter back and forth and just have told a lot of our stories. So if you're ever looking for, and they're like 30 minutes, because I have the patience for 30 minutes. I figured that people might know. Mike was one of our guests. He did an amazing job. So we've interviewed Jimmy, we've interviewed some other parents. So there's some good stories on there, so thanks for that. So, thank you, thanks for listening to me ramble.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much. It was very good.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any other questions for Amy before we? Well, our next guest, again, Melissa Trickett and Dave Woodard from Owl, Golden String, Purple Cat, Gaba Camp, all of the above. Jake and I had a chance in the summer to go out and tour the Gaba Camp, and I'm sure that'll be part of their organization. But just knowing Jimmy Sutman even well before I started here, it's another great organization or group of organizations in this area that provides a lot of supports that our families need. So I'll let them tell their story, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, so the main thing we're gonna talk about today is GABA Camp. Of course, we're both from ISLE, Iron and String Life Enhancement, and which is just basically the parent company, the mother company of Golden String, which is our nonprofit, and that is what basically facilitates GABA Camp. And GABA Camp is going to be, and is in the works right now, has anyone else been able to come out there and look at it? Yeah, 53 acres of land, and it's right next to Farmer Casey's Ranch, which is a Purple Cat Day program where Dylan goes. And we hope to have, right now we have 5 cabins built, they're being furnished right now, all of the little fun plumbing and electricity and all that stuff is coming in now, but eventually we wanna have 15 cabins, a lodge, a horse barn for equine therapy, a 0 entry pool, and this will all be staffed by either our agency, by ISLE staffing, so anyone who would work or live in one of our homes, their staff would just go to GABA Camp. That would be where they would clock in that day, and they could spend the weekend, however you wanna do it, but we can also have, the big picture is that we wanna have people coming in from all over, and flying into Pittsburgh or Cleveland and being able to have an experience, a camping experience that is made specifically for people with disabilities. Amy actually came out and did an interview with us. I almost played that today. I'm like, well, Amy's here, so.
People, yeah, you don't need to do that.
But I do have, it's just like a 4-minute, Jimmy talking, cause he's our best speaker. Although this is saying I'm offline, let's make sure that we're.
He does send us regrets. He was hoping to be here today. He's taking a group to Las Vegas right now, so they're on their way back, but having a lot more fun than we've been having here in Houston. But it's really cool to see this actually come to fruition now. This has been the past 7 years of my life, Melissa's. We've been in it, like she said, all the electrical and plumbing and getting all that run out there. But now you can actually see tangible cabins and things being erected, and it's a really cool thing to see. Still very much fundraising, still trying to get the word out, but it's a project that's very near and dear to us, and it's something that before Jimmy mentioned it, before this idea came around, it's something that you didn't think about. A lot of us got to have the camping experience as kids, and whenever we want, we can just go Mill Creek Park, take a walk, and greenery, and that's something that a lot of people with ambulatory issues and disabilities don't get to do. And studies prove that it's very important just to be able to be in nature. So we've already gotten a path. It's about a half mile that goes around our lake, and that's already been done. And I'm gonna let Jimmy do the heavy lifting here, but
Yeah.
He does a lot better. But we're ready.
It's just a little laggy, but we are on. I don't know if you guys can hear this.
Director of 3 important agencies, 3 of my favorite agencies. First of all, Purple Cat.
Let me just get this up. There we go.
A program for adults with disabilities where we pay our adults to
We're
work.
struggling with this one.
It's a surprise. All different kinds of things. We have a radio station. I also represent ISLE, which is the acronym for Iron and String Life Enhancement, which provides residential opportunities for adults with disabilities. And finally, Golden String Inc., our 501c3 that is going to be leading the charge with GABA Camp, a camp for adults with disabilities. And here I am at this wonderful facility, Farmer Casey's Ranch, that represents all 3.
the fun part, cause we're not asking you guys for donations. But yeah, that is, what Gabby, and we're about a year after that, when that was filmed, so we've got more going on there now. So many just wonderful opportunities, and we have some goals that we are basically the main things that we wanna do with GABA Camp, and one of those is respite. So we want it to be for parents who just need a break, just need a little help, somebody else on their team, that you guys can, through a waiver, have your child come to camp for a week, come to camp for a weekend. And then that will be staffed by ISLE, that'll be staffed by, caregivers that are well-trained in this field, that have empathy-based care, trauma-informed care, that are, very familiar with the population. And so that is our ultimate goal, is to be able to give, people a place, not only folks with disabilities, but their families, their caregivers, everybody can come to a play. And we wanna eventually have it so that families can come, that you can go with your child and spend a weekend and know that you're in a place where no one's gonna be looking at you oddly, or, and all the things that we have to deal with oftentimes when we, have our folks out. And it's unfortunate, but this is gonna be a place where it is completely, that is what is in mind, it's inclusive, and they can have the vacation that they deserve. Do you guys have any questions?
What is your staff, they have trauma, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
What is their medical training? For instance, if someone has a seizure condition or asthma or mobility issues?
Yeah, we have an on-staff nurse as well, but we are everybody who works for ISLE is trained not only in CPR, it's actually goes beyond our CPR training, because we get like EMT training. So we are trained specifically in like seizure, what we do in seizures, what we do in situations, post-ictal situations, anything like that. So there's a good amount of training, it is always kept up. And on top of the normal training that we get, something that I'm the training coordinator, so that's my passion, is making sure that we're getting the training that we need. Any new behavioral supports trainings that come in on top of what the state of Ohio requires, we do those trainings.
So children that have behaviors, they're allowed to come there too if they have like a.
100%.
Okay. Somebody said that they couldn't go there if they had behavior plans and all that.
No.
That was my concern too, my
Yes.
question, because, you hope that they're gonna outgrow the behaviors, but they don't always.
No.
And
And
we understand that, we're very familiar with that.
Okay,
See, that's good to hear, cause I was so worried about that.
me too.
And that's particularly what we wanna take on, again, parents that need a break from those behaviors. Whether they wanna come with their child or not, we wanna be able to provide for that.
When Jimmy spoke at our educational event, I thought it was so fun. First of all, if you've never heard him speak, I encourage you to.
he's the best speaker,
He's
yeah,
so
when he asked us to
amazing.
do, I'm like, they're gonna be expecting Jimmy Sutton.
I knew he was gonna be so good, but he always throws in like a Dylan story, and he does like his voice and everything.
Yes.
He was talking about being at GABA camp, and Dylan's 23. He's better, but he still has behaviors. And Jimmy's like, I was meeting with this contractor, and he was talking about different things in the cabin, and Jimmy's like, well, we're gonna break it. We're gonna break it 1,000,000 times, so don't worry about it. And he goes, and then I hear across the lake, can we go to Chipotle? Is Chipotle open? And the contractor's like, what is that? And he's like, oh, don't worry, that's just Dylan over there. And like, they're so laid back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to worry that they're gonna call me and say like, come pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
He's
That's-
laying naked in the driveway.
Always a concern.
This is true.
It's always a
statement.
concern.
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
Yeah,
About
Yeah.
mentoring, and he's like, people that need, medical, representative.
Yeah.
like Legal, and they have no next of kin. Jimmy has stood in.
Like he's power of attorney for, yeah.
Power of attorney for a
Mhm.
number. He was on 98.9 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, because my son, I listen to 98.9 every morning, and best interviewer in the world is Gary Rivers.
Yeah.
And, that's how I learned about a lot of things. I think your organization was mentioned as well, and, that's a concern as well. is
Yeah.
When we're no longer of this earth.
We have a new program actually that we're just starting, and it is working with younger, 16, 17, that transition age, specifically with autism. So, which is very, very exciting for us. It's a program I just actually had to send out a Bing to everybody, which is the way I send out information to everyone in our company, looking for staff, people that already work for our company, but that want to work specifically with behavioral, anything having to do with the autism spectrum. So we're getting specialized, staff for that very reason. And we won't call like that unless it really, we need to for a medical situation. Even like with Dylan, like there's things like we would be like, we can handle this. Amy doesn't need to know about this right now because she's already feeling sad that during that transition period. We're doing this again with another one of our clients who is my favorite client in the whole world that some people think is difficult, but I really love difficult clients. I don't know why, but but his parents are in their 70s. They have retired, and there's so much guilt there. And I just tell them, like, you have done such a wonderful job. You've done everything correct for that. He is so loved, and he's in the right place, and we love him. We're gonna take care of him. So allow us to, without guilt. You're doing a great job.
Enjoy your retirement.
Enjoy your retirement. You deserve it. So many times we see parents just so hard on themselves for things like this.
That's understandable.
Of course.
It's your child.
Mm-hmm. But we want to, we want to help with that. We want to give you guys a place, a respite for yourselves, for your souls.
So when you say, like, it's called ISLE, is that correct?
Iron and String Life Enhancement.
Okay, I was just curious, cause with the waiver, we currently have it, but we cannot find any respite providers because of behaviors. You guys do you offer anything like that?
We just got put on respite. The respite, GABA camp itself is now considered respite, on top of ISLE. But yeah, ISLE is already on like the respite call list, but GABA camp has now just been added as well.
So we would just contact you to possibly get, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know that.
Yeah, call us for respite. And that's the thing too, is like, why it's such a great partnership with Dylan's House is because, we oftentimes don't have spots. That's been our biggest issue right now, is making those spots. So more buildings that we have, we have been so blessed in that our turnover rate has not been where other agencies have been. People that work for our company have worked for us for 18 years, 10 years, 7 years. Like, our staff is amazing. And I think I'm biased because I've worked for ISLE for a long time, but I love our company, and there's so many good agencies. There really, truly are so many wonderful agencies. But I think we're the best. We do the best job.
I agree.
So, but yeah, work with that, and no matter where you go, no matter what day program, no matter which residential facility, whoever you go with, whatever agencies you go with, GABA camp is still there for you guys to work with. So. And then I had a bunch of stuff, but it's PowerPoint, it's boring, so we can just talk.
Sorry, I have to go.
Sure.
Yeah.
I wanna
Nice
sign
meeting
Lucas
you.
up today.
I know. Yeah, we're close. We're so close to getting those cabins opening. We're hoping. I don't know what the last.
He loves to be outside, so
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
wonderful for him.
Yeah, they just built a little retaining area but we have a huge lake for.
If you've not been there, it's beautiful.
We used to regularly hike 5 miles together in Mill Creek Park, like every Sunday we would go. That was
Come
our
out
thing.
on a Saturday and just check it out. I mean, it's
Have to.
Jimmy's always there. And it's open to people to come out and just check out.
Yeah, I think that would be, we were told by Easter Seals when he was maybe 10, 11, that he was just too much for them for their respite program.
He's so fluffy.
Yeah, he
I'm
tried-
sorry, I'm a little prejudiced.
But
Lucas
here's
is
the thing,
my
he's
boy.
not one to just sit in front of the TV. He's
Right.
not a
That's not
docile,
life.
like, that's just not what he does.
Right.
He's active, he wants to be moving constantly, and that's where my concern comes from. Like, if you're told by Easter Seals that your kid's too much, he's 18 now.
Yeah.
I like to think he's mellowed a little bit, but not completely. He still has moments where he gets upset and he lashes out, and it's very hard to find. Like, I will say that I'm his favorite punching bag, but at the same time, like, he doesn't do what he does to me to other people.
Of course.
So,
Yeah, and that's why this program that Jimmy has been so passionate about, making sure that we get specific staff for you know, our clients with that are on the autism spectrum for that very reason, because so many of our staff are trained and they're great, but they do, you know, they're working with someone with cerebral palsy, or it's different. And again, no one on the spectrum is like anyone else on the spectrum, you know, so you gotta know those things, and you have to get to know your individual, notice
And
all
you
the
can't
things
just,
about
you
them.
can't just see them one time and think that, you know,
That you know they're
well, whether you can or can't deal with that, like, you know, you
For
have to
sure.
give them a chance.
Yes.
It's very important because, you know,
And we know how difficult it is during that transition period, that there's gonna
Right.
be behaviors when
Yeah.
someone's not used to something, and we have to be patient, and we have to be kind and compassionate, and come from that place of trauma-informed care, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
sorry, I'm.
I
I'm a weepy mess.
Okay,
You're
fine. You are absolutely fine. If you can't cry here, I don't know where you can. These people
Yeah,
are
that's
all
exactly-
yeah, I mean, we've all shed a tear somewhere in this building.
All
of us. Yep.
Sometimes happy, sometimes sad, sometimes overwhelmed, sometimes.
Yeah, whatever the reason, it's tough.
And sometimes for other kids, and I'm like, you know, I mean, it's, you know, like Lisa and I, we're on the final chapter for here, you know, and don't think that I'm not going to be praying for, rooting for, wanting to hear about the people that are still here, because I do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the mentor with the loudest mouth and the biggest heart, and we all know who that is, that left, her son graduated, she still looks out for us. She still does something, and we all know who that is.
Yep.
And, you know, she said it, and we're one big dysfunctional happy family. And we will fight to the death for each one of us. And she said it in a funny way, but she's right. And I know when Mike leaves, I still wanna hear about Lucas and Liam. I still wanna hear about the little ones, you know, and how they're doing. For no other reason, sometimes it just makes me feel good that this mission of the Rich Center is gonna continue. Because this school is needed. I've told this story before, when Mike had to be rushed to the hospital when we were on vacation. He was wearing that day a Rich Center for Autism shirt. And the intake kid, and I said kid, was a young man, said not verbal or non. And it took me, I go, non. He goes, his shirt told me. So Mike could be 42 years old and he still wears the Rich Center for Autism shirt. You know, this school is, and any other autism school, I don't wanna just say, but I'm a little, you know, my heart obviously goes here. You don't know how good we have it living here. I've gone to the IEPs at our school district, and I'm sorry, the mainstream schools have made changes, but they're nothing is like the Rich Center, you know. So, you know, we have to be in contact with each other.
I think we're blessed too, just in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
The way that, you know, DODD has done things, it's so different, you know, you could live in a different state from county to county, and there's different names for things, there's different rules, there's, you know, the state of Ohio really has stepped up. And my niece is in Wyoming right now, she's working at Yellowstone, and they have some kids on the spectrum that are working there, and she's like, I don't know who's like, there's no one to help them. She's the one that she's like been helping them, and like there's no staff, and I'm like, what's going on in the state of Wyoming? Where is their supports there? You know, it's just kind of like they drop them off there at Yellowstone, which is a deadly place to live.
Terrifying.
And you know, and I'm just like, you know, but we're very blessed in the state of Ohio to have, you know,
There's more strides need to be made,
absolutely.
you know, cause, I mean, knock on wood, I'm in good health. But I make no guarantee what God has in mind for me, so that's why I go to the meetings, I ask questions. My husband, when he can, he does. When we get older, you don't just take care of your kid. If your mom and dad are blessed to still be alive, you take care of them till they die. You know, so it's mixed generation thing, that we have to consider. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys came today, and we'll be bothering you.
Bother us, yeah.
Can you talk really quick about like the work? Don't you do some type of work where they come here and they have a job? And...
Yeah, and during our day program, that's like, most of our clients don't call, like, the old school people will say workshop, or, you know, but they say work, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
Because most people that work, who maybe are struggling working in the community, you know, and that's a big push in the state of Ohio that all working age adults, you know, they really want the outcome to be that they work. But we're not all just cogs in a machine, right? We have more value than just what we can, you know, push out. So we do have situations where not everybody can work, and that is okay. Even if they say everybody can work with the right supports, not everybody can be out and working at Barnes and Noble or at Dunkin' Donuts, or that it's highly stressful for them, you know, and that we're now dealing with anxiety issues on top of, like, you know. So at our day program, we have the Joe Gallagher's lunch bucket, where you can work on the cleaning crew, you can make food, you can work in the kitchen, you can work prep. At Farmer Casey's Ranch, you can take care of animals, you can feed, there's so many jobs, administrative jobs, where you're shredding paper, or you're answering phones.
Or aides to other clients.
Yeah, or aides to other clients, yeah. So that is their job, they get paid, that is a paycheck, where they can be getting, you know, that, you know, invaluable feeling of I've earned a paycheck, but they can do it in a safe place.
So they enrolled through the day program, or are they actually hired then?
They're hired, they are hired staff, but they are also enrolled.
Okay.
So their waiver is paying, you know, them to get to go there, and they're making spending money. So it's a nice setup.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then you can only make so much, cause you know how it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, we have ways, we always try to finagle the best situation possible for each client.
With Farmer Casey's Ranch, I went to transition fair this fall, and they said it's hard to get in there because everybody loves the animals.
Yeah.
And do you have aides that are next to the special needs individual that help them if they have muscular problems but still want to?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mhm.
And depending on the waiver, you know, if it's the acuity, it's gonna be like, you know, if it's gonna be a one-on-one, then you'll have a staff that is just for that person. So we go by that, and yeah, there's lots of staff. We have outdoor management, indoor management, and staff that's indoor, outdoor, all over the place. But all of our sites are beautiful, and I think that the farm definitely gets the most, you know, attention. But I worked at our Pearl Street site for 4 years. I was there as a staff, and that's one of my favorite sites. We had an AV program, we made short films, you know, we had commercials and music videos, and, you know, all that. You know, the Morley, when we had the Morley, we put on plays. You know, so each site kind of has a specialty, and they're all, you know, I like to view it as like a little campus situation. It's not like college, you know, but it's like, hey, what are you good at? We're gonna place you at this place, you know, whatever makes you happy, where your strengths are gonna shine.
It sounds like that waiver piece is really important. Like my little guy, he's only 8, so we're not quite
You're not
to
there
any
yet,
of these
yeah.
points yet, but
Mhm.
it sounds like waivers are
Huge, yeah.
You'll get there.
You will.
Kind of like I just wrote down.
Yeah.
Because I said, I got
Just
that word
don't
in the
move. Don't move out of Mahoning County, because you have it really good here in Mahoning County.
You do. Yeah.
Because we moved to Columbiana County in October, and I still can't get somebody from the Board of DD to call me back.
Wow.
In Columbiana?
In Columbiana.
Okay.
I've made phone calls, left messages, and I can't get anybody to call me back. And Lucas is 18, he could be getting a waiver.
Yes.
I'm a single mom.
Yeah.
Sorry. I could be getting help that I need.
Yes.
And I can't get anybody to return a phone call. So.
We could all go sit on your.
Don't
worry
sorry.
about that, right? We can go do that for you.
Jeanette just signed herself up.
Oh, I
But
have
yeah,
fun doing
it's
something
very
like
difficult.
that, as long as it's not inside.
Thank goodness for Robin at the Autism Society, because she's like my BFF, and
Yeah.
like, she helps me with
Does he
everything.
have an SSA then now?
He does
Okay.
not yet, because she got me the contact, but just getting somebody to return the call. Like, we had wonderful SSAs in Mahoning County.
Yeah.
My ultimate goal is to get back to Mahoning County
Right.
as soon as possible.
You have
But-
to constantly call.
You
I
do,
live in
yeah, I-
trouble, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's like you have to be like on their butt constantly.
I have a love-hate with SSAs, so it's, you know, because there are absolutely wonderful ones, you know, and then your client gets a different SSA, and you're like, no, they got this one, and I know,
Yeah.
and I know that
Yeah,
one
they're
doesn't
not all
like me
perfect.
because I bother them.
But yeah, I would just like a phone call. Like, I would just like to
100%.
get my foot in the door and find out what we can be doing, because we need to be doing something.
Yeah,
You know, I'm juggling a lot of balls here, so I could use a little help.
for sure.
For the purpose of the recording, I
Yes.
want to thank all of you for coming today, Amy and Melissa and Dave. this was wonderful. By no means do you guys have to stop asking questions. I just want to make sure we have enough juice there to. So thank you, and we really appreciate it. And I know there's definitely going to be some opportunities for collaboration, from the center perspective with all of you down the road. So we look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I'm sorry we're not Jimmy.